Hey trainers! So in this following module, which is called Our Circles Work, is how the village is going to move forward, planning its next steps at the end of the training. So we're going to be dividing up the village into circles, each with a different function as the village prepares to either do a training or a small action next. So I'm going to run through the module as it should be presented at the day of the training. And I'm going to finish at the end with some facilitation tips, but I'll also be talking about how to facilitate this throughout the module. So let's get started. So now that we've decided what we want to work on as a village, we're going to create the structure in order to make that happen. So our movement, Cosecha, functions, our structure is a little bit different than what we might be used to if we work with organizations or community groups. In Cosecha, we are first divided into circles, and circles are really the organs that make up a village. So circles are our closest kind of grouping, our closest unit of organization within the village. They're really like our family that we spend the most time working with. And then circles together form a community, or in this case, working towards a village. So circles are made up of 3 to 7 people. Circles, it's really important that circles cannot have more than 7 people. If a circle reaches 8 people, then it should divide into 2 separate circles of 4, or 1 circle of 3, or 1 circle of 5. So the number of circles then totally depends on how many people we already have in our village. And it's no problem if a circle divides. It's actually even better because the more people we have, the more circles we can have and the more work we can get done. So each circle has a purpose or a function as to what they're doing as a circle. And this function or purpose is to help the village move towards what the next step is, which in this case is either a next training or a next action. So you guys can see here in this is a really awesome visual drawing someone did of what a village could look like and all of the different functions that each circle could have. So you could have circles working towards a training in the left-hand corner, or circles working towards an action. You can have an action circle, you can have an art support circle. If you have a training going on, you could have a greeting circle. So the circles are really designed to be working on a specific part of whatever next action step the village is taking. So this next slide is if the village's next step is a training. So if the village decides that, okay, we want to do a training, then it's important to ask the group, so what do you guys think it takes to pull off a training? Kind of what different kinds of things, what different kind of work do we need to do as a village in order to prepare for a training? You would wait for people's responses. So if you're building towards a training, then just to keep in mind that the circles you may need are a trainer circle, which would be the folks that are actually preparing themselves, learning the modules to be able to be the trainers at the training. You could have a logistics circle, which is taking care of the location of the training, the food, the materials needed, the cleanup, whatever logistical needs the training might have. You could also have a recruitment circle, which is in charge of reaching out to people, going to different community meetings or churches, or reaching out to people one-on-one, whatever recruitment strategies the circle thinks it's best to get people to the training. And if it's a second training, it's probably going to want to have at least 40, 50, 60 people there. So the recruitment circle would do all the work of getting people there. Just something to keep in mind as you're facilitating this. If you only have enough people for 2 circles, that's okay. You can either have both circles work on logistics and not have a separate logistics circle, or you could have 2 circles that each work on recruitment and not have a separate recruitment circle. Because again, the number of circles that you have Depends on how many people. You could also decide that people might want to form part of 2 circles. So you could have 3 separate circles, a trainer circle, a logistics circle, and a recruitment circle. And then for the recruitment circle, you could pull some people from the logistics circle and some people from the trainer circle. There's a bunch of different ways that you can do this. And if you have more than 3, if you have enough people to have more than 3 circles, then you can just duplicate these circles, which, as I said before, is great because the more the merrier. The more people you have, like the more capacity you have to do these next steps. But just remember that circles cannot have more than 7 people, and they have to have at least 3 people. So if the village's next step is to do a small action, then there are different circles that the village is going to need to create depending on what is needed for a small action. So as a facilitator, you can first ask the group, okay, what does it take to pull off an action? What different kinds of things do we need to do? And people will throw out answers. So just to keep in mind, circles that may be needed, and this is up to the group to decide, are art and visual circle, an outreach and absorption circle, a speaker's circle, depending on what type of action it is. Other circles could include a media circle, a legal support circle, a circle that's just focusing on social media, a circle that's focusing on the energy, chants or songs or any other type of kind of hype energy or like ritualistic elements of an action. And I think that in many ways a small action is a little bit more complex than a training. When thinking about what circles to form, it's really important to think ahead about whether a group is doing a training or a small action. We are going to have extra support materials for small actions. So if you think that a village is heading towards a small action, you should consult with those support materials as well. If you have limited people and this is your first action, you may just want to try to keep the action as simple as possible. So the circles can really be clearly defined and communicate well with each other. You will also, if you have limited people, you also really need to determine what the priority circles are. And then for any other needs, kind of either pull people from those priority circles to fill other needs or try to recruit more people into the village. But again, kind of small actions might require some more circles, so there's a little bit of kind of organizing that needs to be done as a facilitator in this part to see what the best type of organization for your village is at this moment. So once you have, as a village, decided on what circles are needed to either move forward to do a training or move forward to do a small action, so you'll need to ask each person what circle they want to be a part of. So you should facilitate dividing the group into circles. And they shouldn't actually get into their circles yet, but you can write down on a butcher paper the different circles that exist. And then who's going to be a part of each circle. And again, if people who have more time or more capacity can have a primary role in the circles, and then can actually be pulled to have a secondary role in another circle. So again, like I said before, if you are doing a training and you only have 2 circles, so you have a trainer circle and a logistics circle, but you still need to do recruitment, you can pull people from the trainers and logistics circle to also be part of a recruitment circle as a secondary role. So now that we know what circle we're going to be a part of, it's important to remember that this circle is going to be like your family. So you're going to work most closely with your circle, but all the circles are working towards a common goal. And within your circle, you're also going to have a specific role. So each person in the circle will choose one of the following roles: either coordinator, facilitator, messenger, or logistics. If you have more than 4 people in your circle, you can double up on roles. And if you double up, one person can be the primary person of that role, and then the other person can be an apprentice supporting and learning that role. If you only have 3 people, the key roles are coordinator, facilitator, and messenger. And you can have everyone kind of doing logistical needs. But if you have 4 people, these are the roles that people are going to take on. So the coordinators are the ones in charge of keeping the group on task. So they're not necessarily doing all of the tasks, but they're holding each person accountable to what his or her task is according to what the group is deciding. So that person, the coordinator, should be checking in regularly with people to see how they're doing on their task and see if they need support in any way. They should be reminding people about meetings. That might mean sending emails or text messages or calling people. And when the circle has a designated time period that they have to finish something in, or a limited amount of time, the coordinator should be the timekeepers in making sure that the circle is doing what they need to do within the time limit that they have. So the facilitators are the ones who really help the group come to decisions. And facilitators aren't the ones making the decisions, but they help guide the circle conversations so that the circle together can come to a decision that everyone agrees to and feels good with. The messengers are the main communication support within the circle. So they are the ones keeping a written record of key decisions made by the circle, and they are communicating with any other circle that your circle might need to be in contact with. So if you're a trainer circle and there's also a recruitment circle, then the messengers of each circle will be talking to one another about what each circle has decided and what each circle needs from the other. So the messenger should always be keeping notes and sending out these notes if they have access to a computer and can use email. The messenger should also help the group maintain a contact list of everyone within the circle and make sure that everyone has that contact information. The logistics person helps with whatever logistical support that the circle needs. So this could include getting materials or food, water, any transportation needs. So whatever the group needs to be able to come together. There are 3 really important ground rules for your roles that it's really, really important to hold. The first one is that all of these roles are about support. So again, the entire structure of Cosecha is founded on the idea that everyone has a role and that no roles are about making decisions for others, that all roles are in support of the growth and well-being of the village as a whole. And this is kind of different than I think if those of us who have been organizing, in community organizations or groups are familiar with, where a lot of key decisions are being made by a few people. This is really a more decentralized way of structuring ourselves. The second really key role here is to hold your role. That if you don't follow through with your role, then the circle cannot function well. It also will create gaps in the work, which forces other people to come in and fill your role, and that can really hurt the whole capacity of everybody. So if you feel that you can't hold your role, that you can't perform the function of your role, that's totally fine. You just need to ask for support and ask for someone to come and take over your role. And the third golden rule to keep in mind is that roles are flexible. So you can always switch roles, you can try out new roles. It's just important that if you go to a new role, that someone also be prepared to take on the role that you had. And be helping people within those roles. So this also brings us to the idea of an apprenticeship model. So I just said that if it's important to kind of be learning new roles and be switching roles, and that roles can be flexible. So whenever someone steps into a new role, they need to be coached on how to perform that role well. Because the main idea of how Cosecha functions is, again, about support. support for the whole village and supporting each other and being able to hold the roles that we do. So if you have more, again, like I said before, if you have more than 4 people in your circle, then you can have an apprentice for the coordinator and facilitator positions. Those are the ones that are a little trickier. So usually if there is going to be an apprentice, it would be for one of those 2 positions. And again, even if you only have 4 people or only 3 people, it's good to be switching roles so that people get experience being facilitators and coordinators and messengers. But people need to. There needs to be a system of coaching so that people can perform their function with support. So when you have more than 4 people, so you already have an apprentice, or when you're ready to switch roles, you should ask, who is willing to step into my role and what help do you need to learn your role? And the circle needs to really give time for people to coach the new person or the apprentice into their role. So we use an apprenticeship model to really understand what this means, and it goes like this. I do, you watch, we talk. I do, you help, we talk. You do, I help, we talk. You do, I watch, we talk. You do, someone else watches. And then the whole cycle starts again. So this is just a way, a framing of how we can bring new people into our roles and how we can structure this apprenticeship model. So remembering the circles that everyone chose, we're going to divide into our circles and pick roles. So each circle is going to have 25 minutes to do the following 4 things. One is pick roles. So decide who's going to be the coordinator, who's going to be the facilitator, the messenger, and the logistics person, and if there are any other people that are going to take on apprenticeship positions. The second thing you're going to do as a group is identify the purpose of your circle. So I want everyone to fill in the following sentence. We are a circle at the blank level working on blank purpose function with the goal of blank. So for example, if you are part of a Boston village, and you're a circle within the Boston village that's preparing for an upcoming training, and you're the recruitment circle, your sentence would go as following. We are a circle at the level of the city of Boston, working on recruiting with the goal of getting 60 people to next training. So I want your circle to come up with a purpose statement to have clarity on what function your circle is supporting within the village. The third thing you're going to do is make a list of work, items, or tasks that your circle will need to do over the next month according to the function of your circle and the purpose of your circle. And then the fourth thing is just determine a weekly meeting day and time to work as a circle. So when you're doing this, it's really important to, again, remember the roles that you pick. So once you pick a facilitator, that facilitator should really help the circle with the following 3 decisions that it has to make and help the circle do the purpose statement and identify the work tasks and kind of guide that conversation, support that conversation. The coordinator should make sure that the circle is able to answer all 4 questions by the time limit of 25 minutes. The messenger should be taking the notes on the circle's answers to these 4 questions and be ready to report back at the end of those 25 minutes because all the messengers are going to stand, but we're going to have a report back session. And the coordinator, if the group needs markers or paper, or people are getting thirsty and they want water, the logistics person, should be taking care of those needs. So again, to facilitators, we would divide people into circles, and they can kind of go in different parts of the room or go to different tables, and you would give them 25 minutes to figure out the answers to these 4 questions, and then come back as a group. And then you would have a report back session. So we're going to ask the messengers from each circle to give us a brief report back on your circle's purpose statement. So we want to hear each circle's purpose statement, and we want to hear 2 to 3 of the key work items or tasks that your circle talked about that you need to work on for the next month. So facilitators, you would go through the report backs for all circles, and the time that this would take would obviously depend on how many circles you have. And I would try to give kind of each group no more than 5 minutes or so to report back so that you can keep moving along with the module. So the next thing that we are going to do is break out, not according to circle, but according to roles. So all the coordinators are going to get together. All of the facilitators are going to get together. All of the logistics folks are going to get together. And all of the messengers are going to get together. And we actually have a specific module to lay out how this would work.